What is fintech?
Fintech is nothing new. It has been around for a while.
When you convert the concept of money into data, that's when the whole area of fintech opens itself to technology.
The Americans have been doing it for a while. The Europeans have been doing it for a while.
I think AI and machine learning are ideally made for finance.
And that has enabled transactions very smooth, user-friendly, instantaneous results. I transferred some money to my dad today morning, which got into his account in nanoseconds. I think that is where my life, Sabir's life, Javed, your life is being changed by fintech.
Hello friends, welcome back to B Cubed. Breaking boundaries with none other than Sabir Bhatia. Sabir, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So today the subject of our conversation is going to be fintech. Fintech is essentially financial, the two words, financial and technology. Now, the use of technology to provide financial services and products to consumers, mainly in the sectors of insurance, banking, and investing. Fintech implies the use of new technologies to compete and replace old traditional financial delivery methods. And to talk about all this, our very special guest on the show today, Jaideep Krishna. Welcome, Jaideep, to the show. So Jaideep Krishna, friends, is a very experienced and creative thinker. He provides clarity and structures to an ambitious suite of various projects. He has all of 4 decades of experience behind him in very, very well-known entities like HSBC, BNP Paribas, Citicorp, Peregrine, and others in various geographies all over the world, if I'm not mistaken. So today he commits himself completely to technology. You know, from being a banker, a financial expert, he now commits himself to being a fintech person. And he commits himself to technology by way of venturing into building an ecosystem, a full ecosystem for freelancers and solopreneurs, an area not touched upon so far by anyone. He calls it Astral. And we will leave it to him to talk about it towards the latter part of this discussion. But to begin with, I need to ask Jaideep the question about, or rather invite his attention to telling us about the latest innovations in fintech, in the area of fintech. So what is happening in fintech currently? Could you please throw some light on that?
Javed, thank you very much for a very, very warm introduction. Truly appreciate it. Great to be here with you, Sabir. Always looked up working with you, and now it's a great opportunity to collaborate with you. So Javed, fintech is nothing new. It has been around for a while. It has not been used in the way technology should have been used. The Americans have been doing it for a while. The Europeans have been doing it for a while. But the major change that came about was when regulations changed and allowed open banking. And India is at the cutting edge of allowing open banking with our UPI and other government initiatives that we have taken on over here. And that has enabled the technology that is being developed to be used in the area of finance and make transactions very smooth, user-friendly, instantaneous results, etc., especially with the youth of the country, which is basically from 18 to the age of 35. The application of these technologies which were there have now been integrated into your and my lives, especially when we want to do our banking on our app. There is no need for you and I to go to a branch. We just do it on our bank. I transferred some money to my dad today morning, which got into his account in nanoseconds. So this is what has changed. Rather than me writing a check, going to a bank, depositing it, wasting time, it's an instantaneous transaction. I think that is where my life, Sabir's life, Javed, your life is being changed by fintech. There are lots of applications of fintech. There are SAS platforms, there are payment platforms, there are risk management platforms, etc., and we'll talk about that. But these are enabling institutions to make highly qualitative and quantitative decisions for individuals and giving them bespoke solutions for as and when their needs are. So,
Sabir, would you?
I have a I like to simplify things. So if you think of money and make money data, at the end of the day, how much I'm worth, what kind of my bank balance is, what each of our bank balances are, or whatever, can all be translated into a number. And numbers are beautifully manipulated by computers. You can transfer numbers from one computer to another. You can add things such as interest on those things. So when you convert the concept of money into data, that's when the whole area of fintech opens itself to technology, because technology is nothing but manipulation of data. We've been doing that for the last 30-40 years using computers. And now, of course, we've got this supercomputer called the internet. We've got artificial intelligence, machine language. All of these things are operating on data. When that data is financial data, we call it fintech. I think that's the simplest explanation of what fintech is.
Wonderful, so well put, coming from somebody who's a tech guru himself. So let's talk about how AI and ML are radically changing the field of finance now. Would you have something to say?
this is where I will pick up on what Sabir just mentioned in terms of data, right? Unless we have data, our AI models would not be working the way they should be. And I think the enabling of AI with fintech will be a game changer completely. Risk management, delivery of services, etc., will become a lot smoother, a lot faster, and a lot more intelligent. AI will bring about an earth-shattering change in the way fintechs operate. Data is going to be the next, as they say, the next oil, right? I would rather say data is going to be the next trillion-dollar industry, or maybe a few $1 trillion in industry. But data, picking up on what Sabir said, data is going to make the difference here.
Sabir, what do you have to say about, because you've delved so much into AI now. So what do you have to say about AI and finance?
I think AI and machine learning are ideally made for finance, because like I mentioned in my previous response, all of money is data. And when you have large volumes of data, whether it is personalized banking, whether it is detection of fraud, whether it is cybersecurity, movement of money from one place to another, all the processes that people had put in place, that banks had put in place or governments had put in place that were manual, can now be automated. And once they're automated, of course, they open themselves to being manipulated algorithmically and subject to fraud. To detect all of this and process these massive amounts of data, AI and machine learning are ideal. So that is it's like a marriage made in heaven when AI and ML are applied to big data, and nothing is more valuable than data that is related to money. Because it's personal finances of people, it's their hard work, there is their efforts, it's their savings, and that's why I think you will see a lot more use of AI and ML in the financial world.
If I may just add, large institutions, large financial institutions, you can take example of a State Bank of India or one of these, they have data of literally everyone in the country, at the corporate level, at the individual level, in the urban level, in the rural level. And can you imagine with that level of data, combining with the AI, how much of smarter decision making will be made? It's actually incredible. We could literally go into the pockets of an individual person in India, especially given the technology that has been enabled, to be able to evaluate the person and give him the money as and when the person needs, in a very, very risk managed way. The data is available. The question is harnessing it with, as Sabir said, with AI and machine learning.
Well, wonderful. But that, with that, I'm reminded about these complex regulatory compliance issues. And how would fintech companies navigate through all this?
So we, I think in India, are very fortunate to have one of the most forward-looking regulators by way of Reserve Bank of India. And all the steps that they have taken over the last few years have enabled technology to come into the system, especially with things like the UPI, etc., which have made transactions very smooth, instantaneously. And the regulatory framework is being done in such a way that it enables the common institution, whether it's a bank or a financial institution like an NBFC, to do what they do, but do it in a risk managed and a very, very efficient way. So regulations are there, but I got to be honest with you, the regulations are very productive and they're very proactive and they're very forward looking, possibly one of the best.
I see. Sabir, what would you say to that?
I think it's good that there is such foresight into adoption of technology, but I think a lot of old world ways of doing things can be improved dramatically if more technology is used and more AI and machine learning is used. For example, this whole system of checking for incoming wires into the country, instead of taking days, should really be minutes. And if you just apply a massive, AI algorithm to detecting who is doing it for nefarious purposes, you can solve the problem, really, and cut down, transfer times to minutes rather than make it days. So a lot has been done, but I think we can certainly, with greater adoption of technology, make it even better.
I think that's a very valid, suggestion, especially for countries like India, where there is, abundant diligence and, I mean, there is a certain much higher, risk perception in terms of security, especially in domains such as these. I think that is what the solution might imply. So how is, now coming to an area which I think you are very familiar with, Jaideep, and you might appreciate this question. How is fintech helping in the unbanked and marginalized parts of society? How should it reach out?
The answer is very simple. We have 800 million mobile phone subscribers in this country. Everyone is now sitting with a supercomputer in his hands. All they have to do is download various apps and they can be trading in the equities market, they could be doing their personal banking, etc. And a large portion of that was never available through the traditional banking system. Fintechs have enabled that. And the fact that we have high-speed connectivity in majority of the country today, we have the availability of internet all across the country. The change has been, it's been a paradigm shift. You can go to any village where they have just basically sometimes like even 2G technology or maybe 3G connectivity, they're still able to do their transactions. And a lot of this being enabled by a backbone, which is a very solid backbone in terms of telephony. But on top of that, a layer has been added with technology. And today, if you wanted a 50,000 rupee loan, I'm not saying that everybody should take a 50,000 rupee loan because it becomes a high risk item. But a person sitting in a village has the ability to access that and get it in a nanosecond as and when he wants it. And this has been made available by the fintechs. And there are a number of examples of fintechs in India that have done really, really well. Risk is always going to be an issue that has to be addressed, and Reserve Bank is very clear on that. I can see every day our central bank, Reserve Bank, coming in with sort of new regulations. But fintech has been a game changer especially in the last 3 years. COVID period was an accelerant for the fintechs, because everybody was sitting at home and they could not have access to go to the local branch, and they sat at home and did their banking. It has been a major change in the country, all enabled by the fintechs. Yeah.
Okay, so financial inclusion
Yes.
has really been facilitated
It's been
by
fantastic.
technology.
It's been facilitated. And it's also been facilitated not just by the fintechs, but the architecture that has been put together in place. With the Aadhaar card, everybody has KYC, is very easy to do, right? The UPI enables you to transfer money to anybody just even based on a simple mobile phone number. And that financial inclusion in just transmitting government benefits to the people, my transaction to Sabir or my payment to you, is instantaneous. And these are things that have been done on an underlayer of what the government has enabled. And on top of that, the fintechs have come in and played a major role. financial inclusion today is not an issue in country. It's a question as to, especially with the underbanked in the rural areas, Javed, the challenge is how do we get to them in time? Are we able to meet their needs on time? And I think that aspect has been covered quite dramatically by both the government as well as by our fintechs working in conjunction with them.
So that was India. How does it work in California?
Well, California, people have been financially included for the last, 50 years. Everybody, it's a different level. The inclusion is not the right word to use.
No, I'm not talking about inclusion.
Yeah,
I'm talking about technology.
Oh my God, technology is being adopted at a very rapid scale. Also, obviously, because Silicon Valley is the birthplace of technology, obviously, and AI systems are being wholeheartedly embraced. So today, loans which used to be given by human beings and have a loan officer are being replaced very quickly with AI. And all kind of communication, even with your financial products, is done through chatbots. So reduction of human intervention. And then I think that is going to be the norm everywhere else as well. If you need to find out what your bank balance is, whether the last payment was made right, this, that, you really don't need to talk to a human being anymore. A chatbot will look into your account and give you the response that you're looking for. But in addition to that, a lot of risk management. For example, assessing you for a loan, a car loan or a home loan, it's all being done based on data. You present your data, and AI system will process that loan for you in minutes, in seconds, because it is all data driven. So we are moving towards a data driven society, into data driven decision making. And I think that will be the aha moment for the rest of the world as well. Sadly, that will cause a loss of a lot of fintech traditional jobs. You won't have a loan officer, a banking officer, all these people who evaluate people's personal credit worthiness. Today, all of that is converted into a number, a FICO score, and based upon that and the assets that you have, machines will be making those decisions for human beings.
But then the financial sector essentially employed a huge number of people, always has traditionally. What's going to happen to employment opportunities in the sector? And will they reappear in the area of technology, or will they kind of just vanish?
Sadly, I think they will all become AI experts, either writing AI algorithms to process all of this, because the human interaction is going to decrease, and systems will take over, because systems are more accurate and they make the right decisions and they have no bias. Previously, before, when loans were being given, there are personal biases. I know you. I mean, that kind of personal relationships are completely removed. An interesting company I came across, Walmart has hired this company to negotiate with their 200,000 vendors. And the negotiation is done through a chat bot with an AI system at the back, and it has been able to reduce their costs of acquiring, of procuring these things from these vendors, because AI bots have no human empathy, if you will, and they try to get them to the lowest price when negotiating with vendors. And they have a lot of data available.
This is what to come. They have data.
They have data available.
They have data not just from yesterday, but they have data for the last 100 years. And behavioral patterns of different vendors, consumers, etc., etc.
And who their competitors are.
Yeah.
So if you're offering this at this price, I know 5 other vendors who can do it at, humans would hesitate to make that statement because we don't want to offend the other person. But AI systems have no empathy, and they'll just do the right thing for the company. So that's the scary part, but that's the world we are going to inhabit. So let's figure out how to play with it. Rather than saying what is going to happen, we can't stop the flow of technology. If Walmart doesn't use it, Walmart's closest competitor will use it, and that's inevitable. And so that's why I think there will be loss of jobs, and people will have to retrain themselves into becoming AI experts and using AI effectively to get further in their own careers.
I think if efficiency and economies of scale will start kicking in the next few years, and that is going to definitely result in some changes. We will see that. I think people, as Sabir said, they'll have to re-educate themselves, retune themselves, and that is going to happen. It's inevitable. We are seeing it already in many industries, and it's going to be happening here as well.
So, Jaideep, let's discuss blockchain and cryptocurrencies, something that is captivating the attention of the world. What exactly is it? Why? What has happened in the field of blockchain and cryptocurrencies? What are they, and how are they posing a threat to traditional financial, traditional finance industry?
So I think we have to make a differentiation here between what is blockchain and what is cryptocurrency. I think that is something which people use these two in tandem, but that's not the case. Blockchain as a technology is brilliant. It is a self-audit, checks and balances are made into the technology, and I think Sabir can answer that a little better than I can. But that is a technology that can be used to build paper trails across, and there is a self-validation process in it. Cryptocurrency is one of the applications of that. And because the way cryptocurrency has been designed at the moment, the whole intention has been to circumvent, if I may use that word, the regulatory framework, and therefore allow a democratized flow of money between people, which poses its own challenges at a regulatory level, because if you allow that to go unchecked, and has happened in the past, a lot of nefarious actors have come into the play and moved money around, which isn't necessarily something which bodes well for all of us. So I think from a cryptocurrency, use cases are there, but it has been applied and used not necessarily what I would sort of say in the most proper and the most best way for mankind as such. A lot of cases have come about there, and obviously it is fraught with risk. So there have been enough thefts of large quantities of money that have been sort of siphoned away, and those have to be brought into checks. And I think that's the awareness is there. Many of the sovereigns themselves are trying to bring in their own digital currencies, because technology you can't stop. Technology is only one way. They're bringing in, but I don't know the end result as to where that is going, and possibly Sabir, you might have a better opinion on this than I have. Yeah, so
blockchain, let's hear from you.
So blockchain is essentially a ledger system that is maintained by not one computer but a plethora of computers. Your network is your ledger, and the whole idea is, I'm not so sure that it is a replacement for, I mean, the whole idea emanated from keeping all of this financial data or any kind of data of transactions in a central database is subject to manipulation. Governments don't really manipulate things, but the whole idea is that we do not trust the government, we do not trust the financial institution, so let's keep a ledger system that is the internet. That was the origin of blockchain. And it's obviously very secure, because if multiple nodes go down, even then it is still alive. There is no one central location. And then there is the whole concept of how do you process a transaction, concept of mining and all of that stuff. Now the cryptocurrency stuff is a lot of fluff, because it's like you're manufacturing something out of nothing and giving value to something that really does not have any value. They go into the semantics of discussion of what a fiat currency is versus what a cryptocurrency is. Frankly, it's just a notional object of value. And if two people agree to do a transaction based on some notional value of this piece of code, and because, like I said, it's all data, it's a transaction where a bit of data can go from your wallet to his wallet, and there is an acknowledgement that I've received that data. It's no different from actual money flowing between the two parties. The only difference here is that it is not regulated by any third party, like a bank or a country or a central bank. And that, it may be good for, buying cocaine on the dark web, but it's not really any solid currency that has got any value or the backing of any government. So while cryptocurrencies during a certain period of time skyrocketed in value, and Bitcoin is still skyrocketing, it could crash tomorrow and be worth nothing, because it's a notional piece of data that somebody says that we believe that this is worth so much. That's the scary part about cryptocurrencies. And so, where the world moves is a question of how people, value it and think about it.
It's been around for 15 years or so, but it hasn't gone mainstream. There is a very small microcosm of people who invest in it and play around with it, but it's not got mainstream. And the reason for that is adoption of something like this, where value is going to be a question mark as to what exactly is it, will never be mainstream. Whilst they use terminology and jargon which is very similar to mining gold, but the reality, it is nowhere close to that.
That's
right.
Jaideep, the area of fintech is very large, and the concern of people about fintech is equally large. And this discussion could go on for a long time. Unfortunately, we are short of time. So I would straight away come to what you are doing. I believe you're doing something quite different in terms of, again, can we call it financial inclusion? So you're doing something in that line, and you are going to be making finance available to those people who would otherwise not have access to finance at all. So would you like to talk about your Astral?
Australia. Thanks, Javed, for bringing that up. So we live in a world where today youngsters in the age group of 18 to 35 have gone through an evolution where they all want to be their own bosses. They want to have their own enterprise. They all want to have their own startups. They are not so inclined to work for large multinationals, and unfortunately, that brings in a lot of challenges. What happens is, if you're a coder or a programmer or a photographer or a graphic designer or a web designer, you're working on your own. And not only are you the product, but you're also the business. Traditional banks do not, as yet, have not recognized these people as an individual product or an individual business. They just see them as the consumer. So tomorrow, if I wanted to go buy a camera and I had to show up at a bank, the most obvious answer would be a no. Or, your father has a big fixed deposit in the bank, pledge that and I will give you a loan to buy a camera. But I also will give you the money to buy a camera with a fixed EMI. Every month you got to pay me. Now, as a freelancer or a solopreneur, especially if you're knowledge-based, right, your income is quite volatile, but does not make you a bad, a risk. So what my whole thesis is that youngsters today who want to be their own bosses, we evaluate them not just on the basis of their CIBIL score or their FICO score, but we look at a 360 view of them. We do psychometrics analysis with them. We look at their Instagram, we look at their Facebook and see who they are, and then we invest in them and provide them financial products which are more suited to their income streams, pricing in the risk of volatility, etc., etc. And the market itself in the Indian context is anywhere between 15 to 25 million people. This is totally unbanked, where they themselves are not recognized as a product or a business, and therefore why can't they be financed? And that is the whole thesis on the basis of which Astrale is being built as a technology platform to provide them not only with financing, but also tools to do their business. If the person is a good photographer, then he should focus on his photography, and all his GST filing, his contracts, his accounts receivables, payables is managed by the platform that we are developing, and also enabling him to communicate and work with other members in the community. They can collaborate. A graphic designer can be collaborating with a photographer, or a ghostwriter can be collaborating with a web designer, and collaborating within the community, because I always believe that 1 + 1 is not equal to 2, or 1 + 1 is many times equal to 2. and trying to work with them. And the youngsters today are a lot more collaborative and they work together. And that's what the whole thesis of Astrale is. And that's where we are at the moment. Yeah.
Wonderful. This seems to be quite an ideal solution for the solopreneurs. Something, quite overdue actually. And all the very best for your platform.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Abhay.
So, given time constraints, we'll have to bring this show to an end, this episode to an end. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Thank you, viewers, for your attention. And please feel free to ask questions. All you have to do to ask a question is to download the app Showreel B Cubed from App Store or Play Store. Put your questions there, and I'm sure the guests will be more than happy to answer your questions. Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Javed. Thank you.